Welcome back to another episode of Driven Hunters Podcast. Today you have hit the lotto, mainly because we are joined by one of our good friends and probably one of my bosses, if you really think about it, Mr. Mitch Petrie from the Outdoor Channel, who is the VP of programming over there. So we like to suck up to Mitch a little bit, and that way he doesn't flag our show all the time and get it kicked off the air. But welcome to southern Minnesota, Mitch.
It's always good to be here. It's only a couple-hour drive for me, so I probably come up here more than I should or more than I'm welcome. But
right, you are a Minnesota boy.
I am a Minnesota boy, yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit about hunting here in Minnesota. And Mitch and I go way back. You know, we have quite a history. You and I, of course, had mutual friends that started way back in the day. How did we meet, anyways?
Well, it's interesting. If you go to an industry trade show, you're generally flying from Minnesota to Las Vegas or Orlando with an airplane full of people from the industry. So
right.
Minnesota's a hotbed for development for products and also for television. There's a lot of longtime producers based in Minnesota. And so I think you and I met because I was brought into outdoor television by a guy named Steve Puppy, who is the same guy that brought you into outdoor television. So as Steve and I worked together and things just kind of evolved, and I ended up going to work for a Minnesota production company, Ron Shera Productions, which was my first full-time gig in television. I think you were one of my early visitors because I wanted to grow in the hunting space, this production company that I was running. And I do remember it. I remember you coming up and into sitting in my office, and we had many interactions before that, but it was actually pretty cool to sit down with Pat Reeve and talk about hunting TV. And the premise for Ron Shera Productions was to, good writing, good storytelling, right. Strong videography. We hired professional videographers, many of them who are still there today because it's a great position. It's not a traditional whack 'em and stack 'em type of hunting show. So you and I had conversations about quality and videography and sound design and what you were trying to do in Driven and what I wanted to do to expand Ron Shera Productions in the hunting world. And I would tell you, you probably don't even know this, but one of the shows we produced at Ron Shera Productions was Fox Pro Fur Takers.
Yeah.
So as an independent producer, I had to negotiate with the network to allow predator hunting to air on Outdoor Channel. And one of the things I convinced them of was, predator hunting could be done at a higher level of quality. So Driven has always been one of my personal standard bearers for quality in outdoor television, and just got to screen an episode that's going to air in a couple of weeks here. And I don't think you've missed a beat. In fact, I think me and the viewers, now my role has changed, I'm working for the network, we always look to Driven TV to kind of push the envelope. And I have a lot of respect for what you all produce here because I know a lot of the details behind it. Some things are lost on viewers. They don't understand that your show open is done every year and it's done with current footage. It's not, you've been around this business for a long time. Your open doesn't have 25 years of highlights of Driven TV. These are highlights from the last year, and they're pretty epic. And I noticed that. I think viewers notice that, which is why.
I appreciate that.
Well, I'm not here to blow smoke either. So
yeah, we told them that. That's what you had to do. You had to blow a lot of smoke, and we pay you a lot of money. No, we'll talk a lot about production because I think that's kind of key is to give people some insight behind the scenes of what goes into it. Kind of like from your angle, what sets our show apart, from the others, because you obviously oversee everybody, not just even on the hunting side, but, fishing and whatever. It's just, I'm proud of you. I mean, you've really, we've came a long ways from working at Shera Production, and then you went out and did your own thing with Muddy Boot. And, of course, we worked together a little bit because you were involved with Polaris back then. Yeah. And we just, maintained a friendship, which is cool. I really, and we've hunted together. We just had a lot of fun over the years, but we go way back. And it's just amazing how, you look back and you think, God, when we met, we never thought we'd be sitting here. doing this.
No,
It's crazy.
No, and I'd never, it's actually kind of fun because I get a lot of inquiries, a lot of young people interested in being in the industry and being on television. This was not my dream growing up. I didn't necessarily have a dream. I participated. I've been a fisherman from the very early days and have hunted since I was 12, 13 years old. But this existed, but I wasn't completely aware of it. When I'm 48 years old, so television back in the day was 13, 15 channels, and I remember when all of a sudden you plugged a cable in and you had like 40 channels, and and there's folks that went before us, with like Bill Jordan on TNN and
Right.
all the others. Roger Raglan, who I hunted with last year.
I love Roger.
He's been in this business for 30 years. So
somebody would just ask me the other day, who do you really look up to and respect? And Roger Raglan came to mind. Jackie Bushman.
Yeah.
All those, guys that have been around forever, I look up to and respect so much. They're iconic for sure.
So I kind of fell into this and have enjoyed it. It really allowed me to rekindle my passion for the outdoors. I've learned a lot about television. Working for 4 years with Ron Shera was fantastic. I used to, I have a college degree, so I know how to write. And I remember I asked Ron to write an episode for a series we were working on, and I took the footage and I wrote my own script for it. And I was pretty proud of it. I was like, it was my first official TV script, and I fancied myself to be an outdoor writer. And Ron gave me his script, and I read Ron's script, and I took my script and shoved it and crumbled it in my back pocket, and pretty sure it doesn't exist anymore. But because there's a very big difference between a professional writer and someone who just knows how to write. And the reality is there's a very big difference between someone who knows how to operate a video camera and someone who knows how to capture the images. And so I'm a big fan of our genre. I've been a consumer of it aggressively for over 10 years, and now I'm in this role where I get to influence what goes to air and help producers on a lot of it's more on the business side now than it is on the production side. But I tell your story frequently because there's a lot of people who have entered into this space with a passion for hunting and figured, well, I'm hunting, I might as well film it. But not as many of them have been able to take that to your level of mastery of the videography and the photography. And part of it is it's a hard balance to be a professional videographer and a professional host / hunter.
Yep.
So it's hard. And when I get a lot of young videographers who ask about what they want to do, or you can just tell if their vision is to be the next Pat Reeve. It's like I learned it very early, and probably from Steve Puppy. When you're filming, you can't be thinking about watching that deer or doing whatever. Your passion has to be that shot. Steve Puppy always used to say, "You can go home and watch it later. You don't have to watch it. Your job is to gather that shot." Yep. And at Ron Shera Productions, our guys were professional videographers. They weren't jacked up about the subject matter, and that was partly by design. Ron didn't want somebody behind the camera thinking he could hunt stronger or catch bigger fish or do whatever. He wanted someone who was passionate about that shot. So you've been able to kind of blend both of those, where you have a passion for the animal and for the hunt and for the art of hunting, but really carrying the equipment that you need and gathering the shots. And I know we've had some heated discussions about some of the things that you've submitted in the past, and there I remember one was a shot of, I think, you and your team walking out of the field, and it was a beautiful mountainscape, and there's like mist in the air going, and I remember you had called me and I had screened something and I didn't pick that out, and you were like, "Didn't you see that shot? That shot was apparently it was like the most epic of epic shots." And I think you were a little disappointed that I missed that. But no, I think viewers appreciate your attention to detail and the quality. And we talk a lot about sound design because it's hard to describe sound design. So sound design is not just, natural sound playing in the background or a water. It's something that just goes and builds. It's almost as important as some of the video. to build and to
Probably
engage your
more
viewer
important.
and draw you in. It's a huge component. And if you just bought a video camera and want to start filming your hunts, that's not something that is taught very well. I don't think it's something that you have to learn over time, and can be a huge differentiator in the final product that goes to air.
Right. Yeah, I always said it's just as important to have great sound as is the visual image. And now, if you honestly looked at great sound design, you would then have to look at the project files for the edit itself and see the layering. Like, if you tore our edit apart, you would see that Andrew and Taylor and even Aaron, it has 7 different channels of audio running at the same time simultaneously that really, some of it's nat sound, which could be water, crickets, birds in the background. Then there's some music score under there. Then there's sound effects that are under there that could be like drum hits that accentuate that scene, whether it builds tension.
Right.
Or whatever. Then there's just, your regular mic audio that the talent is wearing itself. And then there could be, wind sounds. So a lot of times it's several layers deep and nobody picks up on that. And I always complained, I wouldn't pick on you as much as I would Mr. Jeff Wayne, who, was your predecessor, that I would say to, hey, Jeff, it's more about than just a great cut of music that was edited to, that people that was judging that category, they would say, wow, I really like that score of music, because there was obviously more that went into it. And I always kind of mimicked ourselves a little bit after like National Geographic. If you watch their sound design, it's unbelievable. They have, this lion running across the desert after this gazelle or whatever, and you hear this line,
native drums. You can hear the native drums.
Yeah, and they got all this music and drum roll and everything playing, and the intensity's there. But they also got the the feet hitting the ground. And then they also got the lion, growling or just making.
What was the lion doing?
Making some stupid sound. And I'm thinking, I'm sure they have some great mics, parabolic mics or something to pick up some of that. But a lot of that is post. It's done in the edit.
Right.
Hate to, deliver most of our secrets, but, sometimes we take a deer walking through the woods, on a cold morning, and maybe the snow's crunchy, and we take that sound and we accentuate it, where we'll bring it into the edit and we'll boost that sound up, or we'll bring that to a very high level. So you hear that walking, and you hear the sounds that really us hunters all pay attention to subliminally when we're out hunting. It makes the whole scene, because we've been there in the early morning hours. We've been there when the woods is waking up. It would do my show injustice if I had an early morning scene and you didn't hear those sounds of the woods waking up. So that's how, I think our show is a little bit different, like you said.
Yeah. Scent and smell is like one of the most powerful senses, but you can't really do that through TV. So if you're not bombarding the audio in a good way, if you're not satisfying that, you're missing a whole element of your TV show. And I know you don't want to give a lot of trade secrets away, but I have an interest in helping others raise the standard as well. And I think there are some very basic things that when somebody will submit something to me and I'll take a look at it, and I'm like, there's a few really simple things, like first of all, it's like turn the autofocus off. You can see him doing that. And I think Steve Puppy gave me a very good suggestion. I haven't done a lot of filming or editing for that matter, but I did learn that when you're in a tree stand and you've got a camera on the camera pod thing. Don't grab the stick to pan. Just kind of push it. You'll get a lot smoother pan. And you can see there's some real basic things that people can do filming their own hunts or filming for somebody else. The other piece of equipment you have to use would be, it's hard, and people don't like whispering in the tree stand. You have to get good microphones, and the good wireless mics are really key, because you can pick some of that up. And I mean, somebody will submit me something to take to screen and give a look, and there's like 10 very simple things that will help them kind of raise the bar.
What? Give us a couple examples.
Well, a big differentiator for me when I look at some shows like yours compared to others is you can see. You talked about the layering and the audio. You can also see how many edits they're making. So if somebody rolls a piece of video for 45 seconds and it's an animal coming in and there's a couple camera shakes and there's some other, it's just, that works for some brands and for some shows, but you can just tell it's not highly produced. Whereas, your show, you are literally down to probably the half second or down to, 15 frames or whatever it is. You're analyzing every second of that show. So shots like that probably wouldn't make it, where you would, if you had an animal coming in and there was a camera shake, you'd probably do a cutaway to something else, or something else is going on, or show the hunter, or show something that's getting in. So there's a lot of people that they don't understand. We call it's like lazy editing, and you get a lot of lazy shooting as well. So, if you don't, I know you're a hyperactive, I've filmed with you, a hyperactive shooter. You are shooting a lot of different things. And so, depending on what your mindset is going into the field, I mean, if you don't get it on camera, it didn't happen. There's a lot of things you think you can fix in post, but the reality is, if you don't get that interview, or if you don't get that soundbite, and it's okay to do some recreation to help build that, but it's very hard to have the same level of intensity and emotion, to go back later. And how many times early in your career did you say, okay, well, I didn't get that, but we'll go back and get it? And then it's like, no,
never do.
You can't.
No.
Because sometimes the weather changes, or the season changes, or, there's all sorts of things.
Gosh.
And that's the other thing about, what you're able to do that's impressive. And you're not alone in our space at Outdoor Channel and Sportsman's Channel. We're dealing with the best of the best. Despite what some people think,
that's what really keeps me motivated.
Right.
There's some really great producers out there.
Right.
Better than me.
Right. But one element that you can't control is the animal, and they don't always cooperate. So in hunting, personally, when I was running a production company, we had some guys in the field from like August 25th to Christmas, and they had like 8 tags, and they had they shot 2 animals, and we were banking on our whole season. It's like, it's hard to recover from that, but you can't control the weather. You can't, force these animals to come in. This is all fair chase hunting, and this is, in big game, and it's hard hunting. You're battling a lot of different things. So, it's pretty impressive when, and so the episode that we screened today is Saskatchewan deer, your Saskatchewan deer. And I think you mentioned 200 hours in a blind and 3 trips to Canada to actually get it done, and it's all melted down into 22 minutes of an episode.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And people think I watched the episode. You don't make it look easy, because it wasn't an easy hunt. You did a good job of having people experience the pain that you went through to do it. And
you got to take them on that emotional roller coaster, which all hunters can relate to. Often we get a lot of people that comment, say, television, it's all like perfect. And that's a bit of our downfall as producers. We are so limited on time. Right. You kind of look at, all the content, and you got to filter through it. But we try to, take the viewer or the fan through those hills and valleys. So, it's an emotional roller coaster that they can relate to. They know that they've been there, done that. So I like showing the downfalls. I mean, we've had more downfalls than we've had, the positives, but it's, there's a real, not a trick to it, but again, I think it's paying attention to the details. And that goes all the way back. There's so much that goes into the actual production side, all the way from the pre-planning, setting up your hunt schedules, where you're going, when
Right.
you're going.
Who you're going with,
I mean,
right?
if I thought that I was going to make a great television series here in the middle of October or late in December, I would be missing the best part of the season. So we try to plan our schedules accordingly to put ourselves in places that, give us the best opportunity. And then, of course, right down to when we go and get into those setups, like when we go to Saskatchewan and we go set up a blind to hunt a deer, I pay attention to where the sun's going to come up. Because the last thing I want is the sun where we're fighting against the sun and it's distracting from the video. I want it to help accentuate the video. Whether we're filming kind of into the sun with backlighting, that's a cool effect.
Right.
Especially in an early morning where the breath is backlit, it accentuates a deer breathing. Or matter of fact, we just did a bear hunt with my daughter and we were hunting in the morning, which we never bear hunt in the morning. That's a very rare occasion. It's usually evening hunting. But we set up, and it was a backlit scene, and this bear comes walking in, and it's early morning, and his breath is just coming out, and it actually really made that scene look extra cool. And just the glow, backlights, their hair and stuff, or their antlers, whatever. We pay attention to a lot of that. The people they see the show, and they're like, man, your video is so much different than the rest. I mean, it comes down to those kind of details.
Right.
And, and then again, at the end of the day, you're still hunting a wild animal that does not read a script. I always said, it's hard enough to go out there and just to sit in the cold for, a long period of time or climb a mountains that are 15,000 feet or whatever they are.
Right.
And to do it with camera gear, but then you're chasing around a critter that does not want to be taken on camera.
Right. What's impressive for me with you and a lot of our other producers is you are, and I think a lot of your fans operate at a high level as well in terms of for their own hunts. They know what it takes to put in the time, whether they're doing food plots or whether they're just scouting. They know what it takes to be a high-end hunter and have that kind of success. And you operate at that level, as do a lot of our producers. And then on top of it, then you're filming a high-quality production on your own. It's not like you're traveling with 5 people and an audio guy and whatever. These are all, so you have to be dialed in on the hunt side and dialed in on the production side, which it's like running a marathon with ankle weights on. It's just I get it. I don't do a lot on camera because I've got a face for radio.
Me too.
Yeah, but
that's why we're doing it together.
But it's hard, and then I get it. It's a profession as well, and you've made a great living out of it. But it's a lot easier just to sneak out to a tree stand by yourself, no camera, no people, no nothing. And I mean, over your career, how many deer have you had to pass because there was not enough camera light?
Right, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody just asked me that the other day. They're like, do you ever shoot anything off camera? I can't remember the last time I ever went to the woods without a camera. And I think the main reason for me, I would feel really weird about that if I went, just on a hunt without trying to capture it. But I mean, how many times have you been in the woods or you've been somewhere and you're like, I wish you would have had a camera. That was a cool scene. Well, for us, we always have the camera. So we don't want to miss that moment or that opportunity. And that's what it's, always kind of drives us, no pun intended, to, be motivated to get those kind of scenes and to not miss anything.
Right.
And it's so second nature now. That's all I've ever done is, carry the camera, be behind the camera in front of it. And I don't like seeing myself. Honestly, I hate seeing myself on TV. That's why I have Nicole. She brings the beauty to the screen, but it's what I do. It's what I've always done. I've done this for 30 plus years. And I have to feed 5 children with it. So I have to step in front of it as well. And I love hunting. I mean, I honestly do. And that's kind of what I appreciate about some of, the authentic hunters that you have on the network, whether it's Roger Ragland or anybody. I have lots of respect. Mark and Terry Drury, guys that are authentic people that are really they would be hunting at that same level if they didn't have a TV show.
Right.
Same, just like, that I would always want to be out there, if I had an 8 to 5 job. I just got lucky and fell into this at the right time, so it's all panned out over the years. And of course we're, pushing this production level, and we'll talk more about the new era and what the direction you think that we got to go. But it's really in a change mode. Give us a little bit of your kind of thoughts on that.
I was hoping you were going to tell me the direction that we have to go because, we've both lived through some technology evolution. I remember I was an independent producer when HD cameras came out, and, the investment in equipment was substantial. I think we spent well over $250,000 on camera gear at Ranchero Productions in that first transition, and Sony XD cameras and all the storage and everything that went with it, and changing all the workflow and the computers and whatnot. And
non-linear, that was crazy evolution. I remember when when I really came in the business, we were running beta cams, those big giant boat anchors. I mean, you could anchor a ship with one of them. They weighed so much, and they're huge. They're impressive to see, when a cameraman walked into a crowd or whatever, and they had a beta cam on their shoulders. People looked, and they're like, "Wow, that's."
Now you have to put like a cooler on your shoulder to make have that same kind of impact, but the cameras are smaller.
Yeah, you notice nowadays in like a news broadcast or something, guys that have these little handheld, type of DSLR type of things, and streaming that video. It's really changed, and I always say that's kind of what's helped and hurt the business. I think that with technology and the way that went, if it was still back in the day when you had to buy an $80,000 beta camera, then you had to spend an extra $75,000-$80,000 on a playback deck, and I mean the tapes were 30-minute tapes; those weren't cheap.
Right.
It was just super expensive to even
to do it right. It's still, I think the cost of cameras and some of equipment has certainly gone down, but still to do it right, and all the computer gear that you need to have like full HD monitors, makes a big difference in your color correction and what that final product will look like. If you're not using an HD monitor, you're not able to correct it to an appropriate level that's good for broadcast. But so now we're talking about shooting in 4K. Because remember, the networks required HD but didn't broadcast in HD. Now HD is pretty much standard across the board, and you have 4K coming out. But at the same time, you have a lot of people consuming content on laptops or on a cell phone, and they're not as discriminating about the quality as they used to. I said that we when we did that transition, it's like everybody wanted a 70-inch flat screen TV, full HD, and those were $10,000 televisions,
right,
so that you could experience that full HD. Which was kind of funny because if you remember like news broadcasts when they first switched to HD, it's like you could see the cake makeup on all of the, it's like, it wasn't really attractive for that. But for our space, it was fantastic to get really high quality
the scenery and the
images.
Animals.
Right.
Absolutely. You could see their,
right,
eyelashes and whatever else.
So now we're talking like red camera, talking 4K, and the real challenge will be as demographics shift and how people consume their media. I still think that television will be here forever. I mean, it's and content, however it's delivered, is still a very important part. But it costs money. It takes time to create a very refined product like that. And I don't think low end, cell phone camera, little shots, low production value, I don't think that replaces the high end. I think it just kind of complements it.
That's what we're doing here today. Honestly, right. I mean,
this certainly is not high quality in terms of your guest. The set is beautiful, though. I love this. This is
That's
awesome.
Pretty cool. Yeah, right down in our basement here at the Driven headquarters.
But you're right. You're producing content for your fans, and so they can watch your high-end episodes. They can visit your social media outlets. They can see this video podcast. They can experience the Driven brand in a lot of different ways. And I think that's the important thing is as the market shifts, as technology changes, as viewer tendencies change, we all have to evolve, and we are, and the networks are, and I still think that there's a strong future in traditional television, because it's for 10, 15 years, people have said magazines are dead, and they're not, and they may have come off of their peaks, but there's still a strong group of enthusiasts who love to get their
For sure.
magazine.
Like, Nicole was just talking to her dad. And of course, he old school, and he watches network television. That's it. You don't consume anything else. I mean, you don't watch any digital stuff especially on his mobile. He still has a flip phone. Like my dad. I mean, there's a core group of, the audience, people that are still network watchers, and consume long form stuff. But then we have the millennials, and our lifestyle is, a lot quicker than it used to be. So everybody don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch. But the good part is they can watch independently now through technology. You can record our show and watch it at will when they want.
Right. Well, and you can't always believe everything in the media. I mean, because millennials still consume a huge amount of traditional television.
Right.
I mean, it's not like they've stopped,
They quit.
right?
Yeah, right.
And even my son, I have a son who's 19. He'll still, he doesn't subscribe right now, but he still watches it, where he's at. He does consume more on his phone, but it's hard as a producer to think forward, because all you think about is like, right now I need to make sure that I'm doing this, that, or the other thing. Well, the technology and the hardware evolves, where 5 years ago you couldn't watch the things on your cell phone that you can now because of the screen size or the processor speed or the data amount. So now the carriers offer unlimited data. Because before I had
we were limited.
I sent a video to somebody sitting next to me, and she's like, "Well, I can't look at it because I'm out of data." And it was like the first day of the month. I'm like, "How can you be out of data on the first day of your month?" I pushed the limits. I think because I got 3 kids and my wife and myself on it, I pushed the limits at the back end of the month, but pushed the limits of an unlimited plan. But that technology has evolved and will continue to evolve, so that it is, when we started, the internet wasn't even a thing, right? And then you went into dial-up, and and it's like the idea of being able to send an image of a deer to a friend and say, this is the deer that we're going after. Because maybe, if you remember the early trail cameras, they were like, you had to take them into the pharmacy or whatever to get the drugstore to get processed, right?
Yeah, and all you got was 35 pictures of a leaf.
Of a doe. Of one doe. And I got that.
But I was even before that, when you strung a thread across from one device to the other.
Tripwire for
it was a tripwire, and a trip the time when that string was broken or interrupted, and you're like, this is revolutionary. This is going to change my style of hunting. Of course, I mean, eventually it did, but I mean,
well, because now I get text alerts I've got 3 cameras out, and I get text alerts, and it's changed the way we hunt, because now I know. Actually, I use that. Like I do a lot of predator hunting, and it was nice to have remote cameras. If it's this property I can hunt, and there's not always coyotes in the area. But if I get one on a camera, I know, okay, hey, there was a coyote here overnight, so I know they're in this area. So it just helps. You use that to your advantage to help be successful. But so back to the TV thing, I just think. Just like any business that is going through significant change, you just have to watch. Don't underestimate what all the carriers are doing to make sure that television is strong and entertaining and viable and delivering value to its consumers. So I'm not an alarmist when it comes to that. I don't know what the future holds, but as technology evolves, as viewer tendencies evolves, we're as a network committed to making sure a viewer can watch our content anywhere and everywhere they want. Now, that doesn't mean we're available to 100 million homes, but we're striving to do that. But if you want to watch Outdoor Channel right now on a cell phone, we're carried on DirecTV Now, we're carried on Sling TV and several others where you can watch it live. And you can also watch video on demand, which has been around for decades, but it's becoming more and more, I think it's easier to connect to.
Right.
So if I want to watch Driven TV, I don't have to go, Tuesday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Outdoor Channel. I can go Sling TV, pull up Driven TV, and I can see the current episode. Or if there's things I've recorded, I can watch it. So
Let's talk about MOTV some, because that's something that's really become pretty popular since you guys have launched it, and obviously different from just watching standard network stuff. Tell me about MOTV and how that has really kind of evolved and where it's going.
yeah, MOTV is really the Netflix for outdoor television. It's the home of the hands down the largest library of outdoor hunt, shoot, fish programming. And it's available in Apple iTunes Store. It's available Google Play. We're launching it on Hulu here as we speak, which will be huge. It's rolling out on Amazon. It's growing every single day, and the metrics are going in the right direction. But it's also why I'm not an alarmist about technology, because everybody says, well, you have to do this, and then you do it, and it's like, and the market needs to catch up. So I think the market is catching up, but we've solved some pretty big problems. It's not an original idea. There were others who had tried this before, but I don't think the technology was right. You couldn't stream enough. You couldn't stream it fast enough. People didn't have broadband internet, so even to try to download it, it would take a long time to buffer the video, and the image wasn't there. And we had a team of engineers that developed a product so that when you click it, you've got like less than a second of response time, and it loads in the background. So you're watching a high quality image early on, and
you get to, you're watching all the major content that in top brands across the platform.
The who's who of outdoor television are all there. And exclusively, and that's part of the value that we bring, because you see, if the kids these days or millennials aren't buying cable or satellite television, they want to build their own offering. They want Netflix and they want ESPN. Well, we have My Outdoor TV, which can be part of that skinny bundle that they're cobbling together. And what's good, and it's not the current season, but it's within 6 months or so of when episodes air on the network, it moves to MOTV. Mm-hmm. And people have asked about that. Well, they're old episodes, but these are evergreen episodes. And we have a lot of we have our own research department, so we know a fair amount about our market and about our consumers and how they view. And I would think, when you're producing 20 episodes a year of Driven TV, your most ardent fans can't watch all 20.
No,
we want them to.
Yeah.
But the reality is your biggest fans will tune in when they can, as much as they can. They may DVR it, and we capture some of that data as well, and they'll watch it on their own time. But there's a lot of Driven TV that your fans have never seen that's available now on MOTV. So if you want to binge watch, we've got 100 episodes of Driven TV. That's some quality binge watch. We've got like 14,000 episodes.
Mitch, there's nobody that's going to watch Driven TV that much.
They should. They should. They would be entertained, and educated at the same time. So we're very excited as a platform. It's different than a lot of people say, well, I wish it was free. Well, that's the difference. There are options for you that are free, but in life you generally get what you pay for. This is not free because it's high quality. They're the best of the best. It's and it's very robust. We have some very cool. I told you this is the Netflix of the outdoors. What you should expect is we don't believe 14,000 episodes are what are going to continue to feed MOTV and get it to grow. Just like Netflix, when they started out, I remember, Netflix, you could, it was a mail order DVD. You could select your DVD, they'd mail it to you, you'd watch it, you'd send your DVD back. Well, then it changed to a whole online model, and then it changed to an original programming model. And we do have initiatives in development so that we'll have new content going to MOTV.
Original content.
And it's original content that hasn't aired on the linear channel. But it's a slow process. We all want it now, but it's been a couple of years in development rollout, and there's been hiccups, and the technology has evolved, but we've weathered that storm. It's been a huge undertaking, and I think it's an important piece of the mix for this industry in making sure that content is available globally, because we have launched that in it's available worldwide. There's really no place it's not available other than probably China, where they block it or something. But we're seeing a lot of uptick internationally, and I've talked to some producers who are getting some feedback internationally. I've also talked to a few producers who have generated business for their partners, whether they be an outfitter. One was a high-end fishing outfit in Central America who booked 4 or 5 trips off of one episode that aired on MOTV, which is great, because we have a unique business model where we are creating lifestyle content, and it's funded by the manufacturers who advertise on the show. So it's nice to see that that's paying dividends for those advertisers.
That's pretty cool. I think some of that, that content from other countries, like you guys, I just see some promos playing on the Outdoor Channel right now for some foreign content that you're bringing in.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Tell us about that.
Well, we're trying to present a broad mix of content and try to do some things differently. But we acquired a library overseas, a company called Hunter's Video, and in Europe, driven boar hunts and the roe deer hunts, and there's some other. They hunt differently in Europe, but it doesn't mean it doesn't cross over. Particularly with there's a lot of interest in America in hog hunting because of the damage that hogs are causing, and that. So we've taken. It was a series that had a kind of global success, Wild Boar Fever. I think they're on season 9 or 10 of Wild Boar Fever, and have turned that into something in a little bit more of an American style, but to introduce driven boar hunts and some of the other hunts to this American market. And I wouldn't say I was skeptical, but from a production standpoint, to take a library of footage that we used to create a long form DVD and turn it into a season, it's a heavy burden to lay on a team of producers and editors.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I've screened a couple episodes of it, and I was very impressed with the final product, because you and I both had the same questions about, driven boar hunting. It's a bunch of
it's a clarification. It's not like us driven people. It's some It's like driving hogs.
Running hogs through the woods with dogs, to guys teetoters standing up in a tree with a beret shooting at hogs as they pass by. And there's a lot more to it when you kind of peel the onion back and get to understand. And what's also really cool about it is the tradition. I mean, we have our own traditions in hunting, and we have things we do, and a lot of those are very personal. Well, in these areas, a lot of them are very, very traditional. Like they'll bring out the horns and play music. And I know that they traditionally, like, they shoot a hog or a roe deer, and they'll put a branch in that animal's mouth out of respect to as that animal's last meal. So it is kind of cool to see
different styles and different areas. I think that's what has intrigued me about it. It's something different that you would not ever see.
I think a conversation that can be born out of what is aired on Wild Boar Fever is, what will hunting look like in America in 50 years? Because in Europe, where your population densities are much closer, I lived in France for 4 years, and I believe I saw what would be considered a hunting store. But I mean, it was not, it was not like, Academy Sports. Okay. It was just very, the clothing was just very traditional. The firearms were it was just a very unique boutique style. They just don't have that culture, partly because they don't have access to land, and hunting overseas by and large is reserved for a certain class, and even fishing to a certain degree. It's just culturally, it's not where it is with us in America. So I think it's interesting to show some of that, because there's people today who will say, well, unless you have private land or something, you're not going to be able to find a place. There's people today who struggle to find public ground.
Oh, yeah. So that's a real issue. And this is a good segue into what I want to talk about next, because we talk about how hunting is changing and evolving. And of course, you hear a lot about how the numbers are declining and stuff like that. I think from like 2011 through 2016, we lost 2.2 million hunters. And it's not that those people just quit hunting because they didn't think it was cool anymore or whatever. There's just simply a lot of them that are getting older. The baby boomers, are getting older. But let's talk about what's near and dear to both, you and our hearts is getting these young people out there in the field. And of course, this year we got a chance to share some hunting experiences with your son, and you came down and hunted here, and then we brought our kids. They kind of all partaked in this youth hunting event, and it's getting those kids out there, teaching them about the outdoors, and making it a positive experience. Give us your take on the future of hunting and getting these kids involved.
Yeah, I think I'm not an alarmist on the numbers. I think some of the numbers are debatable. Is there a decline in hunting? There's a lot of things you can measure in terms of retail and license sales, but there's
Right.
there's issues around using license to measure that.
Because if you were applying for Iowa and you're waiting 5 years to get a tag, you would say that there's more hunters than there ever was before.
Right.
There's more demand certainly on tags.
Right. So
some
I think on the high
situations.
end, there's probably higher demand, but you're right. We need more masses of people hunting. So, that's a big part of our push at the network is to how do we engage? It's partly why we've done things on the programming side with Duck Dynasty or Deadliest Catch or Wicked Tuna or our movies, which I know you don't like any of those, but the reality is they're bringing in a lot of viewers. So our job at the network is, they're new viewers that we identified through research that are attainable to us to find us and to watch our show. Mm-hmm. And we have research that shows that's been successful in doing that. But so our goal is try to grow this base of support for programming, and then help them understand there's other great shows like Driven TV on there, with the ultimate goal of getting them to participate. I think that we as outdoors men and women have an absolute obligation to share this, to preserve the sport. So I know we both believe that, and we do a lot for that. But because I don't aspire to be like a hugely successful hunter. I don't have a lot of space in my house.
Oh, you're not giving yourself enough credit, Mitch.
No, well, I don't actually. I mean, I haven't.
Well, I've been around Mitch's hunting, and he's probably very spot on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've.
He likes watching more than he does
Exactly.
shooting.
No, I'm gonna wait for that right shot. But I find I love to turkey hunt,
Yeah.
and I have no problem shooting a turkey anytime.
And I've seen you bust some predators at like 700-800 yards.
No, it
against
was 290 maybe.
some
but,
like ridiculous amount.
But I absolutely 100% of the time would rather take somebody else turkey hunting than just going by myself and shooting a turkey myself, because I love calling. I'm not very good at it, but I've had success, and to call in a turkey for my kid, or to call in a turkey for someone who's never turkey hunted before, is so much fun. And then to take my kids deer hunting and take their friends, and really to just always talk about it in a very positive way, I think is very important. Now, the other thing I think the network is pushing, and the networks, and very important, is when there is if there's a plane crash, the airlines come together and work to resolve issues around it. If there is a shooting or something gun related, the NRA steps in and leads and helps people understand, and that to keep things in a neutral ground. If there's an issue with wildlife, like an attack of an animal at a zoo, Jack Hanna's on CNN within 4 hours, talking about what it means, why this happened, how could this happen, and that. When there are issues in hunting, the organizations that you would expect to step up, the safari clubs of the world, and that really haven't had that strong voice. So the network is proactively we're building a conservation website. We want to have a repository. We want to work with our producers to make sure that when there's an issue like the Cecil the lion thing, that we can at least insert our message, which is an amazing message of conservation and preservation of wildlife. And it's counterintuitive for people to think that by hunting animals, I can save animals, but we have a lot of information that we can share to help tell that story. And so as a network, we're putting that out there. We're investing in the resources necessary to have this conservation website so that if there is another incident, that we can at least maintain that middle ground, because it goes straight back to promoting and preserving hunting. I think, unfortunately, the Cecil the lion thing, there was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of bad information, or just people pushing their own agenda. And there was nobody there to say, wait a minute, this is how it really goes down. And people think they can, regulate what's going on in Africa, sitting in their chair in Minneapolis. It's like, no, it's a completely different world, and you don't understand. You don't understand elephant hunting and the impact on the community, or the impact of hunting on those communities.
Yeah, major influence.
Right. So the networks, we are trying to promote that as part of it. It's conservation, but it's also helping to grow participation. We want it, we just need it. And if you know Shane Mahoney, who's a conservationist, we've had some interaction with Shane. He's an amazing, he's a biologist, conservationist, and that, the goal is not to win over everybody into our camp and turn everybody into a hunter. It's not for everybody. Some people they're just not ever going to do that. That's fine. But we do need to make sure that it's acceptable. Like rock climbing. My boss tells a story about a sister who has a service guy comes to her house, and she's just chatting with him. What are you doing this week? Oh, I'm going to go out with my son. And the guy wasn't comfortable telling her that they were going hunting. Really? And I think we've had those encounters ourselves of people just and I'm not talking about just people anti-hunting, but it's like, oh, you hunt? It's like, oh, yeah, of course. I do
got
hunt.
some strange looks driving a camouflage truck through metropolitan areas before.
Yeah, and people don't, if they've never experienced what we experience as hunters, they don't get it. For me, last year on the youth hunt here, the experience includes a 2.5-hour drive with your kid, talking, the conversations that you have with your kids on the road. It's like I took one of my sons to Michigan last year. It was a 10-hour drive, and it's like, we talked for, you have a captive audience there.
Right.
And that was before Fortnite. So we'll see what this fall goes, how this goes. I hope there's no service wherever we're.
You need to kill that battery in that cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely. But you get it. We all get it. That's really why we're all driven hunters, because it's the whole experience. The actual harvest of an animal is a part of it. But it's part of it because we have all of the preparation time. I've been shooting my bow a ton this fall. I'm getting ready for a big hunt.
You are leaving for an elk hunt here pretty soon.
So I'm shooting my bow every single day, and I'm shooting it with my 14-year-old son. He's shooting his bow. The whole time we're doing this, we're talking. We're talking about shooting. We're talking about life. We're talking about hunting. We're talking about fishing. We're talking about girls and school.
Yeah.
Not specific girls, don't worry. We're not.
I wish you had a girl that you were shooting with, and you'd be talking about boys, and you would be.
Yeah,
exactly. It would be a whole different conversation.
Yes, I'm a father of 3 boys. Yeah, he's got girls in his.
Ironically,
universe,
I've been talking to my girls while we've been shooting, and I've been telling them to stay away from Mitch's sons.
No, we've got good kids who.
Right.
Yeah, and so they get it, and and we do a lot of fishing as well, and. It's the same experience. I mean, yes, you're fishing, but what's is it a Trace Adkins song or a Toby Keith song? Well, I think it's Trace Adkins. She thinks we're just fishing.
Right.
Yeah, I fish. I fish every chance I get with my kids, because it's like they won't sit at home.
That's right.
Around the table with me for 4 hours and talk, but they'll sit in my boat for 8 hours and we'll talk about a lot of different things.
That's. You know what? You hit it spot on. You're just developing those relationships that normally a lot of people don't get a chance to do. And, the outdoors brings it together.
Right.
And, so many times, us hunters just get labeled as, people that, have an agenda. But truly, there's more to it. And it's the same way with us.
Right.
We naturally bring our kids in. They see them on the TV show. I don't threaten them. I don't bait them in. I just let them, if they don't want to be, go hunting on camera, they don't have to.
Right.
Matter of fact, Carson, who is grown up on camera, last year or so, now he is had more fun and enjoyment hanging out with his buddies and going hunting. Right across the road here, they all hang out, and he's going through that phase. But we shared a lot of time in the earlier days, just together and learned about hunting. Now he's taking. My neighbors told me, he said, father to the kids that my son's hanging out with, he said, yeah, the other day they showed me a pond that they dug all by hand, and they were so proud of it. And he goes, and he's like, where did you learn that? He goes, well, I learned it from my dad. So, he's applying stuff that he's already learned from me, taking it elsewhere now, applying it. That's pretty cool. It makes you feel proud that, that what you're doing makes a difference. And I know your kids the same way. You got great kids, and they're already being very successful at hunting, and it's pretty cool to see. We need more mentors and people like that, to be a part of the kids' lives and get out there and make a difference. So, because those kids will grow up that way and hopefully carry on that tradition, taking their kids and neighbor kids and whatever else out. So
absolutely,
I applaud you. So before we wrap it up, you're going hunting. Tell them, you're going elk hunting.
I'm doing my first archery elk hunt. It's actually my first elk hunt.
What are you shooting? What kind of bow?
I'm shooting a Matthews Triax.
Nice.
And it's
no excuse then on the weaponry.
Let me. So this is not meant to be a sponsor plug, but this is my actual experience.
I was hoping you were going to say Matthews. Actually,
yes, no, but I'm shooting a Matthews. I've shot other high quality bows, and I had a bow that I was pretty comfortable with. Pretty comfortable passing deer last year, not shooting them with my old bow, but it was just a nice bow. It was comfortable.
What brand was that, Mitch?
Do you want to know?
Yeah, why not?
It's a new breed. It was a new breed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a new breed bow from Alabama. Very nice bow, out of the box, high quality.
Yeah.
Very happy with that. But for this hunt, I wanted to go back to the Matthews family. I shot a Matthews previously and had read good reviews. I shot the Triax for the first time at ATA last year, and it blew me away. I couldn't believe how smooth it was, the let off on it, and just
no vibration.
No, it was so nice. I was like, wow. I like that first shot. I think I seriously said, wow. I said I did not expect it to be that awesome. So
they hit a home run with that Triax. I talked to so many people, even people that have not ever been Matthews shooters, and they, again, like you, picked up the bow, shot it, and they liked it.
Right.
And
so I just I paid for my bow. I'm not a TV star, so I pay for it. And
listen,
by choice.
We don't get all those free bows either.
No, but so and I'm pretty happy with it. So now I've been shooting it, and it's a very. I'm happy how quickly I've been able just to kind of get dialed in, and I have some questions for after this about what I need to be doing. But I've been shooting a lot, and I'm shooting with accuracy, and now I'm really kind of I'm a month away from my hunt, a little bit more than almost a month and a half away.
I'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, so I want to be really dialed in, and I'm anticipating some up close shots. I hope, but I don't know how I'm going to react.
You're gonna fall apart.
I go crazy when a gobbler comes in and he's strutting and drumming and you can feel the vibration. So I've
wait till you add that massive rack and 1,000-pound animal just screaming at you.
I may have to wear diapers, is what I'm thinking.
You are.
Because I don't know what I'm going to do when that happens. So and the reality is, like you know how I hunt. I mean, I'm not out there. First of all, I don't need a 350-inch bull for my first elk. I'm so excited just to have the opportunity to.
It will look like a 350, even if it's a raghorn standing in front of you screaming. And just remember one thing: don't shoot high. And get off the shoulder, because so many people, when an elk is called in and it's in your face, they misjudged. It's not a lot of times where you can grab your rangefinder and they got you pinned down,
Right.
Because they're looking for that cow that they heard, and any little movement they catch. So your movements have to be at a minimum, and so you're always, I would just make sure that you check your ranges from tree to tree, know your ranges, and when they come in, you can adjust accordingly. But a lot of people shoot high. And a lot of times the elk react, is why they shoot high too. They can really duck. They're a big animal, but they can really duck an arrow.
Yeah.
And it's just because they're keyed up, I mean, they're anticipating when they come in. They're either anticipating a fight because you bugled at them, or they're anticipating a cow, and they're just looking, and all of a sudden they hear the bow go off, and their immediate action is to flinch or drop. And if you hit an elk high, or you hit him in the shoulder, bye-bye.
Yeah.
You ain't getting them.
Right.
You just don't get them. They're that tough.
Right.
And so stay off the shoulder and, adjust for drop if they're keyed in on you at a little longer range. And, 20 yards or so, your arrow, it'll be there before they can really duck you. But get out 30 yards and beyond, and if they're really pegged on you, you got to adjust a little bit. You aim them a little lower.
Yeah, I'm going in an area where I think there's a lot of animals, so I'm going to be okay to, if I'm going to wait for the perfect shot, and we'll see how it goes. But very excited to do that. And I've actually been on MOTV watching some elk hunts, and it's funny. I'll actually pause the video and I'll look and I'll say, okay, if that was my view, where would I aim? And you're right, I aim off that shoulder. Right behind the crease there. There seems to be a little bigger target than what I've shot turkeys with my bow before.
Right. I mean, you know what? I've done the same thing. Watch episodes. One thing I learned, I think I learned this from the Primos guys, back in the day, because they had some epic elk stuff. They always have kind of been top level or top notch guys producing that kind of stuff. And I always picked up that when an elk come in, they weren't not really shooting them on that initial approach. It was after the elk kind of busted them that they would kind of take off a little bit, and they saw when that elk turned to run off, they saw that as the opportunity to draw, and so they weren't holding a long time fatigued and making a bad shot that way.
Yeah.
So they drew when the elk busted out of there, but then the caller was there, or they had a call in, and they stopped them, and a lot of times you will get that shot because you bugle at them or you call quick, and they stop and they look back.
Look, right.
And it gives you more of a broadside a lot of times shot, and boom, you're right on them. So,
Right.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You'll have fun. Any other hunts planned besides maybe coming here and trying to shoot a big whitetail again?
Working on. I might go to Texas this year for whitetail.
Nice.
Bring my young son down there. He's still trying to get his first deer. I think Texas would be a good place. So, I don't get, despite what my boss thinks, I don't get to hunt and fish as much as I'd like to. But do a lot locally. Do a lot of weekends. Might have to trespass on Driven Farms here a couple of times this fall.
You watch our Facebook and see when we're gone. You slip in here. Don't you?
See if I can't pass on some more deer at your place this year. And see.
Mitch did pass on a really nice buck last year.
It wasn't by choice.
He took photos of it, and he kept sending me these photos. I'm like, why isn't he? Have you shot him yet? And he's like, no, I'm waiting for him to kind of turn and
come in.
Eventually, he had about quite a few photos, dozens of photos of this deer, and finally the deer bugged off and he needed to get the shot. So, but hey, the good part is I found his sheds. He's going to be here this year.
Oh, I'd like to see those.
It probably would be, he's going to be bigger. Yeah. So maybe it'll work out for the best.
The other good news is that was December 31st and it was minus 12 degrees.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of last light, and I expected him to come to 20 yards. He was at like 35 yards and kind of quartering at me. And I've seen the pictures I took. I could have made that shot. It wasn't a great shot, but I could have made that shot. I didn't think I needed to because I thought he would just come right in. And I think something busted me from behind. Some does or something came in and he busted out. But I did walk out of there going, I'm glad I didn't have to track a deer that maybe would have had a single long hit through the woods in the middle of the night when it's minus 12. I mean, so
it's maybe a good call. Plus, it was New Year's Eve, and your wife wanted to go out for dinner, and you would have been in hot water.
So It was fun.
And then I would have been helping you track, and then I would have been a hound.
Kind of comes full circle. It's not just about killing. I had an awesome time. One of the last pictures I took, there were 2 bucks that buck and another one that came in, and they were kind of giving me the middle finger with their tails as they were walking off. But it's really cool. I had the sunset in the back. They were all backlit, and these 2 bucks. I was like, hey, you know what? It's what drives us to this season. I'm going to be hunting elk when the Minnesota deer season opens, but shortly after that, we'll do a fair amount of local hunting. We have some property up in Minneapolis and get out on weekends. And I'm not sure what the youth season holds this year, but we'll do a youth hunt as well.
Well, get down here. You always have an open invite to come here. We got some great deer that are already showing up on our Mighty trail cameras, and we're excited. Well, you know what? We're going to wrap it up, and I want you to come back, and we'll talk, another time, do some more. Hopefully we'll get to talk about deer you're going to shoot this year,
Some
and
success,
big elk.
Yeah. Well, good luck this fall. I'm excited for you all and to see how you do.
Yeah.
It's
I
around
appreciate
the corner.
that. Yeah. Yes, sir. We'll keep in touch, and we'll keep filming some good programming for the Outdoor Channel. So.
Very good. And we'll keep airing you on Outdoor Channel.
Thank you. We need that. All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.